Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a safe place for leading with your heart. Hey, thanks for being here. You, Me, Empathy is the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective, a collaborative mental health community designed to empower each of us to grow our capacity for empathy, vulnerability, and emotional wayfinding. Just a friendly reminder that this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. No one is just a silly boy with a feely heart. You can support the show by leaving a review in Apple Podcasts, following us on social media at Yumi Empathy and Feely Human, and joining the Feely Human Collective community at feelyhuman.co. And now your host, Known Wells.
Hello, Feely Humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells. This is episode 160 on energy, metaphysics, and crystal healing with Azalea Lee. Azalea is a Los Angeles-based crystal healer. Her company is called Place 8 Healing. She's also at Place 8 Healing, 8, the numeric, Place 8 Healing on Instagram. She's wonderful. We had a lovely conversation. We talk about empathy in the context of politics. We talk about the shoulds we put on others and ourselves. We talk about being mindful of the energy we're putting out into the world. And of course, lots of talk about metaphysics, energy, crystal healing. We talk about Trump's chakras, which was fascinating and devastating at the same time. We talk about manipulative moms. We talk about integrating memories and emotions. We even really kind of go deep on Azalea's ayahuasca ceremony experience. That was fascinating too. Really enjoyed this conversation. I think you will too. I really didn't know anything about crystal healing going into this conversation. I know a little bit now, and I'm grateful for it. I think it's so beautiful that there are so many avenues and so many lenses with which to find healing for ourselves, crystals being one of them. I think it's wonderful, and I'm just grateful for Azalea and the work she's doing in the world. Before we get to the episode, I wanted to remind you that Yumi Empathy is on Patreon. That's Patreon, patreon.com/feelyhuman. If you go there, you can get at $5 a month. If you want to support me and the work I do, that would be wonderful. $5 a month gets you an extra episode every month, and some behind the scenes stuff, and notes and things. And then there are levels above that. $10 a month gives you access to bonus episodes, but also a monthly Zoom hang with me, and we go deep on topics like advocacy and divided world is what we talked about first, and we got some other fun stuff coming up. So if you feel like supporting me and you have some money to throw around every month, that would be wonderful. If you go to patreon.com/feelyhuman, you can check it out there. If you don't have money, that's great. That's fine too. If you don't have money, that's great. What am I saying? If you don't have money to throw around and you don't have the extra money, you can always leave a rating and review for Yumi Empathy in Apple Podcasts. It really does help out the show. I love reading them, and the more ratings and the more this show climbs in the charts, the more people see it and listen and get more empathy and feels into their lives. And as you know very well, that's important. We believe in that. So leave a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. It helps out the show. And finally, I will just say that join the community at feelyhuman.co. If you're a writer, want to do some writing for the journal, I'd love to have your writing. If you want to lead a workshop, I'd love to hear from you. If you're an artist that wants to collaborate, I'd also love to hear from you. Go to feelyhuman.co/collaborate and learn all about that stuff. Okay, let's get to the episode. My conversation with Azalea Lee on energy, metaphysics, and crystal healing. Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, the official podcast of the Feely Human Collective. On this show, we explore the struggles, the triumphs, the brights and the darks we face as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You, Me, Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight, so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being feely humans. You, Me, Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, my abundance of joy is crystal clear because I'm here with metaphysical and spiritual seeker, crystal healer, owner of Place 8 Healing, and gem of a human being, Azalea Lee. Hello, Azalea.
Hi, Noan.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm so happy to have you here. I am really excited about learning about crystals. I paged through your book. It's beautiful and lovely, and I'm just excited to connect and learn more.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm very happy to be sharing the information with crystals with your audience and you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know what's, and we'll get into our emotional check-in in a second, but what I love about this show, this podcast, is that people like yourself, Azalea, come on and, their craft is something that I know nothing about. And yet it serves a purpose of empathy and healing and hope and all these things that I want to do and all the things that this show is all about. And the wonderful thing about this world is that there are so many ways to get there, through crystals, through tarot, through palm reading, whatever is your jam, you can find a healing path, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. Not every single one of us is a unique human being. And what we need for healing, what we need to, individually get close to ourselves may be different for us. It's like saying, you like different foods. I can't, I don't know, we all have our own choices. So you're going to have affinities for certain types of healings over others. And for me, crystals just happen to be the one of the healing modalities I resonate very deeply with. And I believe, there's others out there too, who crystals also touch them as well. So yeah, I mean, it's really great that you have this forum for people to explore all these different, hear from people and explore all the different ways that they can approach their healing. It's not formulaic at all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I do. I love that so much. I say it a million times on this show, but the universe isn't this binary thing, right? We don't live in a right and wrong world. We don't live in this black and white world. We live in a world of rich tapestry, right?
Exactly.
That is unique for all of our journeys. And that's what I love about it the best.
Yeah, totally I agree with you.
So we always kick off the show, Azalea, with an emotional check-in. How are you feeling? Please tell me.
So this is a running joke between my husband and I, because if he asks me how I'm feeling, I'm always feeling these multitude of emotions at the same time, depending on what area we're talking about. So in general, I could say I'm feeling pretty happy. I'm very glad to be sharing, especially in this moment, to talk about the crystals. But I could also share that, we recently had our election, and I'm pretty relieved, very relieved that our president-elect has been nominated, and that we will not be underneath an orange fascist for much longer, hopefully barring any hijinks he might be up to.
Agreed.
Yeah, concerned that we will continue moving forward with all the social justice measures that have been brought up as a result of Trump's presidency and just the social situations that have been around. It's not a time to sit back on our laurels. It is really a time to, it was, it's really unpleasant and it's very sad and it's very tragic and painful that Trump had to be our president. But him being there has allowed this energy to come forth to show us all the other places that to really highlight all the pain that we are feeling as a nation and human beings that are part of this world. We are learning about how we have sort of what have we just been not paying attention to, and what has been lurking and festering underneath the surface. And here, because we've had this energy in leading this country that's been sort of poking at all the, pressing all the buttons, we've really been able to feel this like pain that we've had as a country. And it's all coming out, and now we can't say no to it. We're really seeing it, and now we are addressing it. And I just really hope that we are continuing to address these things moving forward. That it just doesn't, it doesn't change, or it doesn't, we're like, oh, we have a better president in, they can just sit back and relax.
Right. No, I thank you for voicing that. I'm feeling all of those feelings.
Yes.
It's so. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling hope. I'm feeling grateful to have Biden and Harris there, and that feels good. And also, to your point about feeling all of the feelings at once, or a multitude of them, which is such a human thing, right? Like we feel all the things. I feel sadness, right? I feel sad that 70 million people voted for Trump. I feel sad about, frankly, my ignorance in some of these areas, my either lack of willingness or just lack of curiosity. Like, I talk so much about curiosity on this show and the importance of it when it comes to our emotions, right? And yet, I am, as a white man, I am coming to terms with some of these issues, systemic racism, things like that, in ways that I, should have been more sort of face to face with in the past. And that feels uncomfortable. And that feels like something, of course, I need to face. And yeah, no, it's hope and sadness, and we better fucking keep working.
Yeah. I mean, I'm listening to you and I hear your sadness that you didn't know more. I think all of us, I'm not white, I'm Asian, I'm a person of color, but it's a really different experience for someone who's Black and someone who's brown. And as someone who really cares about other people, we're all finding blind spots. We're all finding out things that we may have not recognized before. So I think it's a lot to put on yourself to say that you should have known more. Sometimes we don't know more until we count it. That's life. That's why we learn. That's it. It would help us not to beat ourselves up for the things that we could have done better. That's, it's in the past. So where are we right now, and what are we going to do with what we've learned? That's where the real work is. And that's where the real preciousness is. It's like, okay, if I have this information now, am I being more responsible? Am I going to be responsible with it? Am I going to honor it? As opposed to knowing that information and blowing it off. Yeah. You didn't know. I remember times in my life when I look back, and I was so careless with the stuff that I buy. Like, I would throw things away all the time. I just lived very unconsciously, and I could turn around and chastise myself for that. But I honestly didn't know. Yeah. I wasn't in that place yet. I was still absorbing a lot of the beliefs I had learned from my family. And it wasn't until I left them that I could start unraveling these pieces. So it would be unfair for me to chastise the younger self of me, to say, you were not woke, that you were sleeping. But I just hadn't had those life experiences to be able to take me to the point where I could recognize those things. So I think that's a lot of what our life is. And it, looking around at all the people who voted for Trump, they're also in that same place. I've been thinking about this a lot and talking about this a lot with my friends and colleagues about, what brings somebody to be a Trump supporter? What,
Yeah.
puts them in this place? And what I see is basically a lack of emotional maturity, and not saying that, in a sense that these are not, I look at these people and they can't feel empathy because they don't even feel empathy for themselves. They can't even recognize their own pain. What they express is fear, they express anger, but underneath that is pain and hurt because of the things they taught, the things that they believe that someone's going to take something from them, whatever it is. They are in a place where they don't understand how to process these feelings, because until they process their own feelings of pain, they're not going to be able to feel somebody else's pain. They're going to be blind to somebody else's pain because they're blind to themselves. So, we talk about, like, not on a political level, on a social level, all the things that we're doing, but what are we doing as human beings energetically? What are we supporting? One of the things that, constantly I think of is when people who support Trump look at them, they see his image, they hear the things that he has to say, but they don't pay attention to, is he really backing it up and what's behind that image? They want to believe this thing that they're seeing. They want to believe this fantasy that has been collected. And it's also part of them that that this is an energy that they have within their self, that they are wanting this fantasy. So, they're fantastical people. They want to believe in the fantasy instead of the reality. So what are we doing to help people connect with their reality? And, your show is one of these things that, your work that you do is one of these things. How do we get people to see that vulnerability is this very beautiful thing that connects you, that helps you feel more wonderful? And in turn, that vulnerability gets you to a place where you can empathize with others. And unfortunately, I would love to wave a magic wand and miraculously change everybody so they're in touch with themselves and they're feeling their pain and they're being vulnerable. But it is a journey. It's a journey to take. And, some people don't make it out of this lifetime figuring it out. Sometimes it takes a lot of time, and we have to be okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's so well said. I appreciate the empathy, and I think what it comes down to for me is the human condition, the human experience in my mind is one that should be about constant change, constant looking, constant assessing, right? And being curious and looking at the things, because that is how we grow. That is how we challenge our own biases and perspectives. That's how we better ourselves for ourselves and then for our communities, right? Like, and what I do see on the side of maybe the Trump believer and the Trump supporter is they're lacking in that, like you said, emotional maturity. They're lacking in that curiosity, that willingness to challenge their own biases and get into that discomfort.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things when I'm hearing you speak. One of it is the should. Should is about, the word should is implying that there's a right and wrong way to do things. So it's one of those things that when we put should, it's also because it's not only the should that we're putting out to everybody else, it's also the should that we're putting out to ourselves. And it doesn't really give us as much space to make mistakes when you should do something. I come from a Korean background, and Koreans are really big with their shoulds. You should and your should nots. And even now I've had to spend so many years to undo the sort of knots that have come because the should and should nots. And, even now, like every time I speak to someone who's grown up in this culture, even with people who were adopted and have this like epigenetic information in them, they are so controlled by the shoulds.
Yeah.
So it's it's just dropping that in general. It's, you can't get to that place of curiosity. You can't get to that place of where you want to be better when you're hurting so bad. We have, like, I look at, what's considered like this, the archetypal or the ideal Trump male. He's the dude, and he's like, I got a gun, and like all these other things that are like, that come along with this personality or this fantasy action figure that is the ideal Trump male. And you
Yeah.
know what? That's a toxic male persona that's being promoted. It's a persona where you don't feel feelings, you stuff them down, you be a man. And that information, that messaging is rife throughout all sectors. I mean, I used to work in film and television. Film and television is notorious liberal, like is very, very liberal, very, very progressive. However, if you look at the movies out there, how many like characters do we have that are the man who have the gun? How many guns do we have in movies? How many characters do we have that show their manliness, their physical strength and their wits?
Yeah.
It doesn't leave room for someone not to be that way and be considered manly. And it's, this is the subtle messaging that we're promoting throughout our culture. So we really have to look at ourselves, even for those of us who are consider ourselves very progressive and very socially minded. Are we putting this information out into the world? Are we interested in someone because of the image they present? What are the illusions that we are following? What are the things that we are energetically supporting? Because that's all connected. How we move through our lives is connected to how it affects the rest of the world. In metaphysics, there's nothing that you do that doesn't affect anything else. So even if it's an action that's just within your own mind, what you say to yourself, how you criticize yourself, whatever, all those things is also an energy that propagates out into the world. So if you are taking away the shoulds from yourself, you also take the shoulds away from everyone else, which also includes the shoulds they say about themselves. I should be a man. To be a man, I should be carrying a gun. To be a man, I should be, stuffing down my emotions. So we cut out the should part altogether.
Right.
And that takes away one little Jenga piece of like that, whatever the Jenga piece from that structure that's holding it all up. So yeah, it's a little bit, from a metaphysical level, you're doing a lot of what seems like micro work. But it's really profound in your own life. And the way that you end up moving through the world affects everybody else, whether you are aware of it or not. So I always say, when you want to change the world, you change yourself, you work on yourself, you do all things. If you want to see more curiosity in the world, if you want to see people be more engaged and more empathetic, you have to cultivate that within yourself. And it's not always easy. There's plenty of times I want to take a shoe and throw it at somebody. But, it's the work that I need to do if I want to see this world a better place. What energy am I holding that holds the structure together that creates less empathy, less vulnerability?
Yeah. No, I always say we have to go inward before we go outward. And it's true. Like, we are reflections of what we put out in the world. What we do to ourselves is what we do to each other, what we do to our communities. Yeah. So what I find very fascinating and really quite lovely about the sort of the metaphysical piece of it that you're talking about, it's what you hear in the therapist, sort of room. It's what you hear in psychology, right? It's like you keep telling yourself, like, and that's what's in your mind, but you're taking this, really almost a step further and saying, like, what you're saying is that your energy is impacting others and yourself, and it's like this all connected thing. And I think that's such a nice, not nice. Nice is
nice is great.
It's a beautiful way to look at it. I think the more we can as humans get into the mindset of our actions affect the earth, affect others, the better we're going to be. That's the mindset I have, at least.
Yeah, I mean, from a metaphysical standpoint. So metaphysics is dealing with things that are non-physical matter. So there's going to be no such thing as, there's no materialness there's no physical, you can't weigh this stuff. You can't weigh love. You can't weigh, there's nothing we can measure. But these emotions, this metaphysical, this energy has force. It is real. It is moving through it. It's just like when I say, there's no there's been no scientific study that's proven love exists. Period. There's no way we can measure it. There's no way that we can prove that we can pass it from one person to another. But you have felt someone give you love. You have given love to somebody else. It's something we just experience and know.
Right.
Likewise with emotions, it's something, let's see, any emotion. Like, how do you measure anger in a clinical setting? Is it a chemical? It's none of those things. All these emotions that we feel are really non-material, but it's something that we experience. They're real. They're very, very real. So in the same way, like in metaphysical energy, you're dealing with like stuff that's really real. It just can't be measured. So, a lot of my work deals with feelings, because feelings in metaphysics, emotions are some of the most powerful things you work with. They are all your strength. They are all your energy comes from, like, it gets expressed and communicated, and you get information, and the way that you connect is through emotions. Emotions are wonderful. And we live in this world that has been trying to suppress emotions in so many different ways. We live in this world that loves to be intellectual. Let me just think it out. Let me just think about stuff. Let me just suppress my feelings. Let me feel something, but let me think about it. And let me see if I can just think about it till I don't feel it anymore.
Yeah.
It's so unhealthy. Yep. So when we go into metaphysics, when we're working on a metaphysical level, when you work with healers, especially, therapists, even therapists or non-metaphysical, we're dealing with feelings and your emotions, because your emotions actually are like little energy packets. So your fear is holding,
fun.
So your fear is holding a little energy packet. And the reason why it's fear is because it's distorted. It's actually joy. But until you unravel the little energy packet, it's always going to end up at fear. And the more you suppress it, the more fear you're going to feel. So what you want to do is unravel that packet, so everything's in its right order. Because when it's misplaced and out of place, that's when it doesn't feel good. So when I work with crystals, for example, crystals help you reorder those feelings so you can so they can straighten out. So for the audience who may not know about how crystal energy works, so you can imagine that we know that everything in this universe is vibrating. So your heart is vibrating, and your brain is vibrating, your liver is vibrating, your lungs are vibrating, everything in you is vibrating. And together it creates this beautiful symphony that makes you known. Nobody else has a symphony. It's just yours.
So we're vibrating because we're atoms. Is that, or is there something else to it?
Exactly. Your atoms that are vibrating, are vibrating. But what's also vibrating are your thoughts, those emotional packets of energy. They're also vibrating as well. Love is a vibration that you feel from one person. Your anger is a vibration. Your anxiety, your overwhelm, all those things are vibrations. So you might have, like, inside your brain, you might have a vibration that keeps on occurring that is not in tune with, it's like in your symphony, you have a whole instrument that's out of tune.
We have a broken oboe.
Yeah, you have a broken oboe, but you've been playing the oboe like that for so long, it sounds normal to you. It sounds like that's the way it always sounds like. So what a crystal does is, while you're this symphony of all these different instruments happening at once, changing all the time, you bring a crystal into your world. And as long as you welcome it in and agree to work with it, that crystal has a very consistent vibration. The reason why a crystal is a crystal is because to be defined as a crystal, it means it has to have atoms, molecules are in a repeating order. So there's this consistency. It's like this pattern that is repeating throughout the crystal. So that crystal is emanating this vibration as atoms, and it's a certain pattern. And if it's the right crystal working for your oboe, what it does, it's like the tune is like the note, we sound like this. The oboe's supposed to sound like that. And you're like, oh, that's what the oboe's supposed to sound like. Let me retune my oboe so it sounds more like this. And then when you play it in your symphony sounds way more together and way more true. So you're working, you'll work with different crystals to help you vibrate, help sort of tune you in the ways that maybe you're out of tune.
So I love that analogy. So the crystal, does each crystal have a different vibration?
Yeah, so different types of crystals will have different kinds of vibrations, and they will all lean toward one particular. They tend to have affinities for certain things,
Hmm.
but it gets, for me, the way that crystals are popularly presented now, this very genericized, oversimplified presentation of crystals is just like, oh, if you need more money, just use this crystal. And that's a way oversimplification of how crystals work. Crystals there are crystals that may help you with manifestation. There are crystals that will help you with your heart. There are crystals that'll help you with, if you have a lot of thoughts running in your mind. But it's more important to find a crystal that actually resonates with you as your energy. So you can think, like, for instance, that there's something going on with your woodwind section, and then you're just going to choose something that's woodwind-like. But you need to find the crystal that's actually going to work on your oboe. So,
and that's where you come in?
Well, that's where my book comes in, because I think for what people have learned about crystals is that they just need to look at somebody's dictionary of what crystal works for what. And that's not the way that I've found crystals to work best. It's really about finding what crystal resonates with you the most, which could be nothing like the description that you've thought you've read or what you're mentally connecting with for instance, one crystal will be like, connects you to your third eye, helps you see visions, yada, yada, yada. And somebody will like, oh, I need more inspiration. I'll get that crystal because this book says that this crystal is for inspiration and seeing my visions.
Gotcha.
But that, to me, what may help you actually see your visions better may have nothing to do with your third eye chakra, which is connected to inner vision. It might be really actually connected to your emotions. If you're blocking your solar plexus chakra, which is the chakra of emotions, if you're blocking that, it's hard to be inspired. It's hard. And it's hard to get ideas if you're not inspired. So if you learn how to start feeling or tuning into these vibrations, you will find out the crystal that you need. It may not be the crystal that you cognitively think matches the description. You might find a crystal that's actually more attuned to you. And in my book, I teach the audience and teach people how to connect with the vibration of the crystals so they don't have to refer to a book to find out what crystal is right for them. So it's a different methodology.
Yeah, that piece of it I'm very fascinated by, because what I hear you saying, as someone who has no knowledge of crystals whatsoever, other than like paging through your book a little bit, like no experience with it, no knowledge of it, you're the first crystal healer I've ever spoken to. Okay, so that's my frame of reference. What I hear you saying is like, you're using these tools, the tools being crystals, as means of self-awareness, emotional, clarity and curiosity, maybe even self-acceptance at times, whatever people need, maybe. What I'm curious about is like how much of it is them learning the language of the crystals and learning how to work with crystals, and how much of it is like you sort of providing some of that education, and how much work do people need to do with crystals to find like, the healing path they need or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Like how curious, like how much inquiry are they giving to you when you're working with people one-on-one? I'm just like, I'm so curious about like that specific you working with someone in that capacity. Like, how does that relationship go?
Okay, so let me sort of, because sometimes I'm so in it, I forget how big the subject is for some. Like, I'm like, okay, wait, if I'm staying from your position, what does this look like?
Okay. Let's start at the history of crystals, billions of years ago. No, I don't know.
So like, okay, let me reframe this to make it easier. So when we're looking at from a metaphysical perspective, we're looking at your energy and what is out of alignment in your energy. What in your energy, like in that symphony of known, like what is out of tune? What is out of place? What isn't helping? What is hurting? What doesn't feel good? And how do we get that piece to feel better? So that can include crystals. It can include flower essences. It can include therapy. It can include anything to get that energy to be more in alignment and to be truer to you, to make you sound.
I already need to interrupt.
Right.
I already need to interrupt.
Yeah.
Question. So
yes.
When you're saying that, like, is it the person coming to you with like specific, like, this is where I'm struggling, or they're, maybe is it sometimes like a bit of a kind of, I'm struggling and I don't know how or why. And that's the sort of path of like trying to figure it out through these crystals.
Yeah, I think that's the same. Like anytime you would go to a therapist's office, you're like, there's some of it that you understand. Like you're like, I'm not feeling good. I don't know what it is. Or it's like, I think it's this. Let me talk about this. And then as you're going through the journey, you figure out what other pieces are there. And sometimes the therapist or whoever you're working with can help you see, like just them being the sounding board or them noticing or them paying attention as they listen to you. They're able to sort of put together a picture because they're outside of you. So so in the same way, when someone comes to me for a crystal healing session, for me, I don't know how other people work with crystals for their healing sessions. Mine, people definitely say it's like a therapy session, because when people come in, I'm asking them like, what are you coming in for? What do you feel like you want help with? What's concerning you and what's pressing on you? And so I just take that information, and that's enough. So that's enough for me to know cognitively, or what the client is cognitively thinking of, where they are. But I'm also, as a metaphysicist, I'm looking at their energy. I can see, like I see and feel knots in their different chakras where things are out of place. So what I do is when we'll go into the crystal healing session, the client lies down. They do a really short meditation just to get them to relax. And then I start putting crystals on them. And as I start putting crystals on them, I'm like on the outside, I am using the crystals I know that are going to help with the certain sort of like the energetic knots and things that I'm feeling. I'm picking out the crystals that are resonating or will be helpful for the things that I'm feeling on my end. Meanwhile, I'm asking the client, the client and I are talking. So their eyes might be closed, but it's like, people often say it's like lucid dreaming. So they're seeing visions. So I say, hey, so where are you? And they'll say like, I'm walking down a street. And I said, okay. And I said, do you notice anything as you walk down the street? Is there like any sounds, any smells? And she's like, I smell cotton candy. I say, great. Do you want to follow the cotton candy? And she goes, yes. And I said, okay.
This is very similar to EMDR. Like that's kind of how they do it in EMDR. Are you familiar?
My friend just said she started doing it and she's been really interested in it. But that she's been getting a lot of help from doing EMDR. But I don't. Other than what she's told me, that's all I know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've done it maybe a handful of times, and that was kind of the way. It was like she's kind of I'm sort of. The idea is to allow my mind to just kind of wander and like see where it ends up. And then she kind of checks in and she asks, where I'm at, and let's follow that. And it's a lot of that journey, in your mind.
Yeah. So for instance, I don't know if in EMDR you're following like actual events or just stuff that's going on. In the crystal healing session, it's definitely much more fantastical. So for instance, with this client who's walking down the street and following the cotton candy smell, I'm like, okay, so where did you find the cotton candy? Where did it go? And she said, I'm at a dive bar. I'm like, okay, great. Do you want to go in? So I'm always checking in with the client. I never force a client to go anywhere in their journey. They choose to go themselves. But this particular client wanted to go in the dive bar. So she went in, and then I say, okay, what do you see? And she says, there's an ice cream man serving ice cream. So me being on the outside, it's really confusing for the client because they're like, why am I here? Why am I at a dive bar with the ice cream man? Like, what am I supposed to do here? Yeah. And I can sort of feel what's happening, because it's almost like I have a bird's eye view of what's happening with their energy. I'm watching their energy. I'm watching how the crystals are affecting them on an energetic level. And then I'm talking to them and getting their feedback of what they're experiencing. So in this particular instance, I said, so can you ask the ice cream man what message he has for you? So she goes and asks the ice cream man. And the ice cream man, I'm like, what did the ice cream man say? Ice cream man say? And she said, I should always believe in myself. and it's really weird because I didn't say anything. This is the thing that's inside her mind. But whatever that message was for her was really profound. That was the message she needed to hear. And she also ordered like this Neapolitan ice cream because that's what she was in the mood for. So in the crystal healing journey, it's like a dream. Nothing is linear. We might enter one place and totally get pooped out in another place. We're jumping from timelines from in the past into the future. We're going everywhere. So it's just very, for people who, I find that the people who say that it's pretty psychedelic hadn't had a lot of experience with psychedelics, but they say it's this really crazy journey. And I'm holding that space. I'm working with the crystals because every time they are encountering something, I'm seeing shifts in their energy, and I'm using those crystals to help unravel and help unknot some of these things that are stuck inside them. So it could be anything at any time. I never know where we're going to go. I just know that I know how to maneuver these spaces. I know how the metaphysical worlds work in this way. I know how to get from, I know how to, like, my job is to keep the client safe because the things they encounter might be really scary because it's emotions. People feel emotions really, really profoundly in crystal healing sessions. So oftentimes the thing that also comes up a lot is you might have a memory from when you were younger and it was just a thing that happened to you, like this stuff, like you remember this thing that happened to you, no big deal. But in the context of a crystal healing session, you will see how big that moment was. It's just that the little you didn't know how to process it very well, didn't know how to process what had happened. So you're going, you're seeing it as this older, wiser, more experienced you. And you're like, oh my goodness, that is, that was a really abusive thing to happen to a child. That's not okay. That's okay. While the kid is just like, this is normal family life. No big deal. And you, the adult, goes back, no, that is not totally right. So in the crystal healing also, because we're in a metaphysical space, oftentimes what you do is you have the person go back and go get their younger selves. So their younger selves might be very, very frightened, very, very scared. Oftentimes it's like nobody understands that child. Like even if people care about this child and are trying to comfort this child, nobody understands this poor child and everything they're going through. But you do. You remember what it was like. You can feel this child. You can feel what happened to them. And you are the best person to go and comfort and nurture this child. You're the best. You go and so in the crystal healing, something happens with these crystals that make these experiences so very clear and profound that in that moment when you're able to go help that child, it changes your life in the now. Because that younger part of yourself that was lost is still in there in you. Time, like there's no such thing as time. So that little part of you is still within you, scared and frightened. And for the first time, like you're coming back, you're saving this child.
Yeah.
And it does wonders for you on an energetic level to heal that piece. So in a crystal healing session, I have no idea what pieces we're going to end up healing. I don't know, but what rises up because what the crystals unravel and what they are able to help people see and feel and resolve in themselves, that healing changes the person itself. And then oftentimes I heard this one person had come in and they had a crystal healing session. And some time later, I happened to run into them at a craft fair I was doing. And the sister came up. She said, "What did you do to my sister? She's so different. We have fought our entire lives. And now we're really, really close. What did you do?" And I was like, I didn't even know, I wasn't even expecting this. Had no idea. But what had happened was the older sister, something had changed in her energy that was because of her crystal healing session. Something shifted in her. And as a byproduct of that, that somehow clarified whatever tension was between her and her sister. So that's when I say on a metaphysical level, all the things that we do for the selves, if you want to help the world, you work on yourself. If you want to help the world, you find a way to be happier, like truly happy. If you want the world to be more fulfilled, you find that fulfillment in yourself. All the healing you can do for the world, you model it in your own energy. Then other people it leaves space energetically for other people to experience that. If you're not experiencing it in yourself, there's not room for for you to be able to, if you are able to thrive, it shows other people how they can thrive.
Right.
So the crystals are doing that. Right now I'm a little distracted because I have a set of crystals that are on my desk, and they're always really happy when I talk about them. So they're all really super excited right now. So I'm a little distracted looking at them. But
so that's so fascinating. But let's take a quick break and say, wait, what are they doing? Are they dancing? Like, how are you? Like, what do you see as someone who's, a specialist in metaphysics and crystals? Like, when you say you see, you see the energy. Like, what does that mean?
Well, it's a combination of feeling and seeing, but it's not like a sight. So what's the best? So, when you watch a cartoon and someone gets startled and like exclamation points come out of their head? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not what you are actually seeing, but you can sort of sense that that's what happens when someone's startled. Like I remember watching that video of a guy like walking out with his phone, and then he didn't know he was walking right up to a bear. And so as soon as he he just you could see, you knew that sort of the exclamation points from all directions just sort of like flinging out. So I have a more awareness when that sort of movement is happening. So it's like this movement that I see and feel on an emotional, on a sort of this empathetic, energetic level, not with my body, but with this, one of your sixth senses. So I'm feeling it on multiple levels, and the combination of seeing it on a metaphysical level, feeling it on a metaphysical level, feeling their emotions puts a picture together for me.
Yeah.
I think what might be helpful is that in my book, I share about how people can connect to their own intuition. Everybody has intuitive facilities. Everyone. I'm not a special person. Everyone has it. It's just a matter of being able to tune into it and connect with it. So one of the important things to know is that in the sixth senses, you have many different sixth senses. So there's what's considered clairvoyance. So clairvoyance is actually clear seeing. So that's people who see visions. Then there's also who are kinesthetic, like claircognizant. So those are people who just know things. And that's one of they just know, just like, so I just know things.
Like what? What are some things that you just know?
Like when somebody comes in and I see like they come in and I immediately know they're going through some real emotional stuff with their in a romantic relationship. It's just something I just pick up. I just know it.
Gotcha.
And then I use my kinesthetic ability to tune into what is going on in their body. What does their body feel like? And then there are people who are clairaudient. They hear things. So they'll hear words, they'll hear sounds, they'll hear things coming in. The truth of the matter is that you have a dominance. You probably are dominant in one or more of those areas, and you have some minor areas, but you share, you basically have all those abilities. It's just finding out which one of yours are your more dominant senses. Just like saying, there's even this thing called clairgustament. When you taste things, you can taste information in them, or you smell things psychically.
Oh, so I was hoping that was going to be you see gooses everywhere.
You could.
I guess it's geese.
Maybe, yeah. But yeah, so everyone has a multitude of everyone has the ability, but most people have been taught not to pay attention to them, to ignore them, just like our society has taught people to ignore their feelings. So people have drowned it out.
So is
it's
that part of it? Like, is that like, I think you're 100% correct. Like,
Mhm.
our societal artifice and cultural norms and baggage and stuff tell us what we should, right? Should and
Mhm.
should not be doing.
Mhm.
Is that part of the piece of, tapping tapping into your own intuition? Like, is that, or are we losing that stuff in the, you know, society telling us we need to, push down our emotions, society telling us we need to be stronger or whatever? Like, are we
Yeah.
losing that in it?
I mean, that's basically the conditioning we've been raised up with.
Yeah.
That's been imposed on it by the society, and it not only affects your intuition, it affects your connection with Mother Earth. You being able to notice what's going on in nature around you. It's that disconnection we have. It's basically a disconnection. We're disconnecting from ourselves. We're disconnecting from our intuition. We're disconnecting from our emotions. We're disconnecting with our connection to Mother Earth and nature. We're disconnecting to each other.
Hmm.
It's just disconnection.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's again like one of the crystals I spend like 30 pages of the book talking about is hematite, because hematite is the ultimate stone for grounding and being connected to your root chakra. And I talk about how that crystal is so important for you to be connected with your own physical body,
Hmm.
because you are a multidimensional being. Your body is focused in this physical dimension on earth for a particular reason, because there are particular lessons for you to learn in this journey, in this dimension, in this context. So it behooves you to be present in that body, to be present in this experience so you can fully learn whatever it is that you need to, whatever your takeaways are supposed to be.
Right.
And most people, we live in this world where we constantly are suppressing our physical selves. So we live by these clocks that tell us, we're not getting up when the sun rises or before the sun rises or whatever. We get up whenever our alarm clock tells us to. We go to bed whenever, we're supposed to, depending on what time our alarm clock is raised. We're running around, we run around on schedules that are not good for our bodies. We are constantly pushing ourselves. We, eat things that we feel like we're supposed to eat. We're not paying attention. Like, we just don't pay attention. We've intellectualized every aspect of our lives.
Hmm.
We have forgotten our bodies. Our bodies have so much information for us. They tell us so many things. And in that process of us ignoring our bodies, ignoring like when our body says, I need more sleep today. When we ignore those things, you start ignoring other physical aspects of yourself too. You ignore pleasure. You ignore when your body's in pain. You're just ignoring. And what you do is you instead put all that energy and you stick it inside your head and you think about it. Let me think about it. Can I do something else? Can I think about it? Can I distract myself? Can I do, you put energy in your head. And so when the thing I see most when people come in for sessions is oftentimes that they have a lot of energy in their heads. So I describe it in my book as, that people look like energetically like overinflated balloons on a string.
Hmm.
So they got a head and their head is just floating around, taking them to all sorts of places, and it's not grounded. It's not connected to reality. So they're in the land of like, okay, if I think this, and let me split hairs again, but what about this? And then what about this? And then they're somewhere completely not anywhere. That's not even in reality land anymore. That's just them and their thoughts getting carried away.
Right.
So when you're grounded on a metaphysical level, you're actually pulling that energy down into your root chakra, the base at your spine, which is the chakra that's connected to Mother Earth. The root chakra is about the physical body, your physical self. Oftentimes the first needs of life. So your first needs of life are warmth, food, and shelter, clothing. The three things you need to survive. If you don't have warmth, if you don't have food, if you don't have shelter, those are the things you're going to die. If you're a baby, you don't have those three things. You can't even think about love. You can't even think about relationships unless you have those first things. And all of those things, warmth, shelter, food, that's all provided by Mother Earth. It's your connection to Mother Earth. She shows you how you can have all those things through her. So in our disconnection to our intuition, we have also become disconnected to nature. I remember the time I was getting, this guy who's a forager, and he was teaching us how to forage for food out in the California wilderness. And I remember like thinking like, oh my God, I don't even know what these plants are. I don't even know what these plants do. And how many times have I walked by these plants and had no idea about them? I was so ignorant and blind to them. That's how disconnected I am. And I'm someone who loves plants and I love nature, but I still don't know. And, when you walk down the street, do you know what these plants, do you know what the animals are? Do you even know what's around you? And you've lived here your whole life. You lived in this world your whole life. We are profoundly disconnected. So base one, to get out of your mind. So when people ask me, what's a crystal good for anxiety? And, in crystal books, you'll read, this crystal's good for anxiety. And I will say, you need hematite. That's like number one crystal to work with is you need hematite. You need to get into your body. You need to be able, because what you're actually doing when you ground yourself energetically is you're taking that energy that is too much energy in your mind, and you're actually like bringing it down, and then you're actually sending it down from your body back into Mother Earth through your feet. That energy, that connection allows you to drain energy toward her, and she just recycles it. Mother Earth on an energetic level will recycle that energy into something she can use. Meanwhile, you're able to be more connected to her and hear her better.
So you mentioned in the, I think a couple of times in your introduction to your book about like finding our truest selves. Is that what like all of this work you do is about? Is the intuition part, is the grounding, is the like being in our bodies, is that all the work of finding our truest self?
Yeah. I mean, you think about all the pieces. Okay. So we think about what are all the things that we learned as children that are actually beliefs given to us by our parents. They thought they were protecting us, but it was actually unhelpful information to have. It could be,
don't take candy from strangers. You should take candy from strangers. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like, well, stuff like you're like, don't,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. Don't show don't show that emotion in front of other people. You'll be vulnerable.
Yeah. Or a parent saying, you're okay. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all these things that they're telling you that are not, that they mean to be helpful to you, but it's actually their coping mechanism that doesn't work. Like it works for a little bit and then it no longer works, So you're learning to undo all these things. And I forgot where the point we were going to.
Well, let's back up then. What were some of the things that you learned that you later had to like, that doesn't serve me?
Okay, that's a lot. I am a child of narcissists, and I grew up in a very abusive household. So
buddy, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, so there is still things that I am unlearning that I didn't even know were there. So like there's my relationship with my mom is especially, and I guess both of my parents, but it's fraught in a different sort of way because, don't ever look desperate. That was one thing that she would say, don't be desperate.
Interesting. What did she mean by that?
My mother was very beautiful, and she always had like men falling all over themselves to do things for her. And there was something that she was triggering in them to chase after them. And she was very haughty. So she would go, and it would just even make them even more crazy to do, like, fall over themselves and do something for her.
She sounds like a character from a 1930s detective novel.
Yeah, it's exactly. She was very manipulative, right? That. So part of her saying like, don't be desperate was to play this game. How do you play games with other people to make them do what you want? And I literally had my mother have conversations with me. She's like, I don't believe in win-win situations. There's always somebody who loses, and it should be them. So, wow. So there are these things that, I'm watching her navigate through life, and, she's my mom. I'm little, like, this is who I see. Like, I see all these people falling all over her, trying to do whatever they, whatever they're, whatever she wants. She's basically manipulating them. So I'm learning, that's how you get people to do stuff. You manipulate them.
Sure.
like in small ways. And of course, this disagreed with something fundamentally inside me. And of course, like I tried to somehow emulate it, and it never worked because I wasn't a narcissist and like all these other things. But, those are like some of the lessons, don't, yeah. I mean, I can't even begin to, there's a lot in there, but there's a lot in there, but that's all the stuff I had to unravel. Like, oh, my mother would say, you're so generous. Why, you're so generous. Like it was a bad thing.
Oh, interesting.
You're like so generous, like you should, like as if I shouldn't be generous. Like you shouldn't be generous.
Yeah.
You're so generous. And, like, oh, you should always show your feelings on your sleeve. Like you shouldn't show your, don't air your dirty laundry in public.
Sure.
Like all these, things of, it's a front. It's a front that's not true. So, there was like, I'm like, oh, am I not, there was a part of me that questioned, I'm like, oh, am I not supposed to, am I being too desperate? Am I showing too much? Am I being too generous? And so I would have this voice following me in my life until I got to a point, I'm like, it's great to be generous. I have a lot to share. I am a cornucopia of, emotions and love and stuff. And, if I want to share all the stuff that falls out of the basket, like that's my prerogative. I can do that,
Yeah.
I don't, like that's the, the sort of things that she taught me. And I was like, oh, this is all bullshit that she taught me. This is coming from her narcissism. It's coming from her pain. It's coming from her stuff that she wanted to impose on me, that she wanted basically a little mini me.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy into that. I did to an extent as a child because that's all I knew. But then I decided like, I realized I'm like, this is stupid. This is stupid.
Was there a moment or a turning point memory of like you realizing that?
I mean, it's stages. It's with energy healing work. So when I say you are trying to find your truest self, it is a never ending journey. It keeps on going.
Oh yeah. That's the life's work.
Yeah. You are like an onion and there's another beautiful layer underneath and there's another thing underneath. And sometimes you don't find the layers underneath until you get to the layers above them. So it's even like, it's so many things. Like I remember one of the first moments when I started wresting my power from my mother was, I came over to visit her for Mother's Day. And then she said, okay, can you go sweep the floor? And I said, Mom, I didn't come over to sweep your floor. I came to spend time with you. And she said, then fine, then leave. And I'm like, and I left.
Wow.
I just left. And I'm like, and up to that point, I had been so enmeshed with her drama that I couldn't have seen that before.
Yeah.
I didn't know. And so at that point, I'm like, I'm not doing this.
Good for you.
So that was like one stage. And then it was other stages. So it was many layers of me peeling away from her. And in fact, like in the last year, I just basically told her, I'm like, I have no interest in seeing you anymore, adding anything into my life. And I did it very clearly, not with any hate, not with any anger. It's just like, this isn't working for me. I like to be around, and I did this with every different times with every member of my immediate family. I realized I love my family. I do. I want to see the best for them, for each and every one of them. And I have open arms for whenever moment they want to have a true relationship with me. But for the time being, I can't be around. If I'm around them, I am going to be in shit flinging distance. Yeah. And I just choose not to be like, I'm not going to be in shit flinging distance. So as long as if they're going to stop flinging shit, then I'll, if they want to come in and they want to have a real relationship, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah. I
have no resentment for them. There's nothing like I'm going to hold over them, but they're not in that place. So I'm just going to go merrily along with my life. And that took many stages, that took many, many years of slowly saying, no, that's not okay. And reclaiming back my boundaries.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful you found that and for yourself, because I know how hard that is. I'm hard. Kind of in it myself in a way. And you feel like I don't know about you, but like, I felt some shame, some guilt along the way, in sort of creating the boundaries even. Right. And at the end of the day, like, you are the only person who can know what is your true self and what is worth pursuing in that journey, you know?
Right. I mean, I think, a lot of my, this point of me getting to this place has been years, decades of work of unraveling stuff. And in each step of the way, and it could be through crystals, it could be flower essence. There's so many modalities that I have worked with to get to this point. It could be, you could get to this point by watching a movie and watching some other character come to realization themselves. You're constantly working on the self. And in each step of the way, I'm becoming truer to who I am. When I stepped away from my family, I became truer to myself because I realized I'm like, my family, I could do the most wonderful things and my family is not, they just can't see it because they right now can only see me as something to be used. So I can look a certain way. I can do everything perfectly or whatever to the way they want it. And it's never going to be good enough for them. And I will be miserable. And it's not worth it.
No,
so
it's not.
So on that point, I think a lot of the shame that people are feeling comes from codependency. So one of my greatest mentors and the person I work with to help me see many of the pieces that I am not clear. She's my mentor is actually a 40-year in practice marriage family therapist she's my psychic mentor as well. And she's shown me a lot of the dynamic of codependent relationships and being in codependent families. And one of the things that she showed me is that when you're in a codependent family, you are asked to perform. You're always being asked to perform so that you can get love from your family. And if you try to step out of that dynamic, you will always be seen as the perpetrator. You're always going to be seen as the bad person. Yep. No matter what, for you to step out of that dynamic. So if you can recognize that if they're trying to make you feel bad, that might be a sign that you're actually healing. If that's the position you will always end up being in when you are leaving a toxic relationship, is that you are always going to be the bad person. So they're trying to do that. They're trying to hook you back into this dynamic. They're trying to hook you into a dynamic where they can control you. So you have to be the one to be able to face those feelings, that judgment, that they're saying that you're a bad person, that they're making you feel bad, that you're not doing enough, or whatever it is, that you feel like you haven't put in enough. It's something that you have to face because you are not honoring yourself. You're just not honoring your feelings. You're not honoring your value. You're not honoring your boundaries. Yep. So yeah, it's the, a lot of people have grown up in very codependent families, and it's very, if you had talked to me 20 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to see the things that I see now, the dynamics that were happening. It's something that's happened over time, slowly but surely. Yeah. And I am grateful that as difficult and as painful as my experience have been, it's exactly what allows me to serve as a healer, because I know what it's like. I know it may not be the exact same thing as you, but I know what it's like. I know what it's like to love your family, but also have, realize that you want to be independent from them emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah. And like all of that, I love that. And thank you for sharing it. It's, your eyes are open, right? Like your eyes and heart are open. And that's what makes the journey enriching. That's what makes the onion continue to peel. That's what makes you the beautiful healer you are. Like that is the gift.
Yeah. I mean, I think people see pain as a bad thing.
Sure. Yeah.
People see pain, they see anger, and there are no emotions that are bad. Correct. This is also something I've learned from my mentor. So there are no emotions that are bad. But what happens, especially if you're growing up in a dysfunctional family, is you associate emotion with an action. For instance, if you're feeling anger, it's usually associated with violence.
Right.
But anger doesn't necessarily turn into violence. It's just that's the actions it's associated with if you don't deal with that emotion, right? It just, you know, because you can be angry. Like, for instance, anger is just this feeling that you're having. Love is actually the total context that holds everything. So I can love my husband, and I also could be angry with him. I can be happy with him, and I can be sad with him, and I can be frustrated with him all in the same get-go.
Yes.
Level, but yeah.
And as you pointed to earlier on our conversation, it might not even be anger. Like, it may feel like anger, and it's maybe you're dealing with depression. Like maybe it's something else you just need to dig deeper and be more curious about and look at.
Yeah. I mean, what is always under anger or fear is sadness. It's like the base emotion. It's just, it comes out as fear. It comes out as anger. Yeah. And that's a helpful thing to help recognize. Whenever you're angry, it's actually pain. And whenever you're in fear, it's actually pain. Yeah. So you have to work through those pieces you have to process them to get to the point of joy and happiness. And I like working with crystals because it really suits my personality and how I like to work with energy, because, I find crystals to be very tectonic. They're really, they jostle things around. They really, So you're talking about Mother Earth's energy. So Mother Earth, when she decides she's going to make things crash into each other, they're going to melt. She's going to melt things. She's going to make things explode. She doesn't have to do things subtly at all.
Oh, and yeah. Fact, I mean, we live in California. Fires everywhere.
Yeah, it's just like, she's like, earthquake, okay, time to shake things up. She'll shake it up. So in the same way, crystals they're basically fruits of her body. So with her material fruits of her body, she's created these little, these beautiful little tools that help you in this very tectonic way, shake things up or crush things or move things around. And I'm someone who, I like to go off if I realize okay, I need to change this thing, I don't want to tiptoe around it. I just want to get in it. I want to just I want to work through it.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. If I find that piece, I'm like, okay, let me do it. So for many people, crystals, especially in the crystal healing session, crystal work is really intense because it's really about shifting huge pieces that are within you. Energy that's been really stagnant. And you're and the crystal saying, this is not working. Let me just let me just move this whole rock that's been holding up your whole foundation of all your beliefs. And I'm going to put it over here. And then your whole house falls apart. You're just oh my God, look at all these pieces. And then you're like, hey, I'm like, here's this shirt in the closet. I haven't worn this thing in 20 years. I don't want this anymore. Take that out. Oh, here's this book. I never read it. This is shitty information. Let me throw that out. So what the crystals are doing is they're shifting big parts of your energy around. So I don't know if you've had this experience where you bring in a new piece of furniture in your room or in your house, and then you have to end up changing the whole layout of your space because you just brought this one thing.
Totally.
So that's what I really especially like about crystal energy, because you can work on one part and working on that one part, it just creates this cascade of effects of other things to work from. Whereas flower essences, which I also do flower essences, but people know me for my crystal work more. Flower essences is what grows in that landscape. How do we develop this beautiful energy to manifest and be so beautiful in this space? So it's different. It's both working on healing. It's both, but just the texture of how that energy works is different.
Right.
I just I'm the total deep end person. I remember 10 years ago, I really wanted to, for many, many years, had wanted to go do ayahuasca. And I said, I'm so stuck in my life. I got a tax return. I'm going to go do ayahuasca. And I told my husband, I'm like, I'm going to go do this thing. I'm going to go to Peru. I'm going to go sit with some shamans and I'm going to drink this crazy drink. And he's like, that sounds really scary. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm in so much pain. I'm so uncomfortable with my life right now. I need to do something.
Wow.
I need to do something. And I'd rather go to the far edge of the world or whatever, go to the Amazon jungle to see if I can find this piece, because what I am sitting in is it's uncomfortable. I don't want to be like this anymore.
Yeah.
And then so he said to me, he's like, well, can we go to Machu Picchu? And I'm like, of course. And so he's like, that sounds really scary, but I'll go with you. So he went with me.
Did he do ayahuasca with you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he did. And it was more for him, wasn't going with the same intention. Like I had gone with like, throw me in the middle of the ocean, teach me how to swim if I can get out of the situation, like get out of this uncomfortable feeling I'm in. And for him, it's like, oh, let me just try this out. So he went and he did it. And, it shifted him. But what was really interesting was just like 10 years after we went, he decided he wanted to go back and do some more work on himself. And at the time, he was experiencing a lot of depression and he was feeling pretty angry and frustrated in his life. And it was like really interesting because the retreat that he went to, you couldn't have any contact with internet for the time that you were there. So I didn't talk to him for, I think, 7 or 10 days that he was away.
Oh, wow.
And so when he came back, it was like, wow. What it felt like, I felt like I was living with a person who had perpetual rain, like a thundercloud over his head that was sort of just like spraying lightning bolts, and I would just get hit all the time.
Oh my God.
Around.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like instead of, I was like, oh, this isn't, I'm like, that's not fun.
Right.
And he came back and it was just like, it was just gone.
Wow.
It was just gone. And it's not to say that he doesn't have more work, but at least that layer got worked through.
Right.
So just to be clear, because this is something that people don't know, is that there's a lot of ayahuasca tourism in countries like Peru and Brazil. And most of these places are complete junk. They will hurt you. Energy work is a sacred
Mm.
work. You are basically opening up people, even in crystal work and flower essences, all these metaphysical things. You're exploring somebody's energies. And if you don't know what you're doing, if you are not going into this with love and with sacredness and respect for that person, you're going to basically go in and hurt people very, very badly through your incompetence.
So is there I am all like, I want to do ayahuasca. I recently did mushrooms for the first time and intend to do it again because it was very deeply profound. And I am someone who has major depressive disorder. So I want to figure out other means to, battling that. Right. So for the listeners, is there like, what do you recommend in terms of like, if they're curious about ayahuasca? I mean, obviously we're not experts on this, to be clear. That's the disclaimer, but like, what would you say?
I mean, you have to do your research. Okay. So the number one thing to know, like from a Western perspective, we think that drugs, like especially hallucinogenic drugs, you do the trip and you have your profound whatever, and that's it.
Yeah.
But really what it is that's the medicine opens you up, and then it's the gift and the talent and the understanding and the expertise of the shaman who's guiding you through this process. So what the shaman, like at least in the ayahuasca ceremony that I did with my 10 years ago, the shaman says to you, I know everything that's happening. I am holding the space. I know everything that's happening in your physical bodies. And I'm also know everything that's happening in the ayahuasca, in your vision, in the space of your visions. And so what he would do is like, so I'd be having a vision and then I'd have a realization and then I'd hear him laugh because he saw me have that vision. He saw me get it. He saw me get to this. So I would just constantly have this guy who was giggling across the room every time. I was like, oh my God, profound. I've just had this moment. Oh my God, I had a profound thing I figured out. And he would just be giggling over there because I got it. Like I finally got it. So he's observing. And in the same way I experience this as a crystal healer is that I see where people are heading to. I'm using the crystals to help them get there, but it's them they are the ones that are having that realization. And it's like, it's very exciting. It's super giddy, like to help somebody get to that point. So here's this person, and he's like, at least our shaman at the time that I had gone, he was this tiny little guy, super humble, just with a tank top and like knockoff Converse shoes. And he just did the most miraculous things all the time. And he'd been training since he was 5 years old.
Is this guy, I'm sorry was he Peruvian?
No. Yeah, Peruvian.
Okay.
So it's all along the Amazon that this medicine has been used. The gringo guy who helped find this particular place, he just recently passed away, but my husband went to a place called the Temple of the Way of Light. And I did some pretty heavy research before I suggested this place to my husband, and from the reports I got back to him, they are doing it correctly. They're doing it with the right intention. There's a lot of places where they don't, like, first of all, one of the most important things to do is to get you into the energy of the medicine, to get you more primed for it. You have to go on a diet before you. So for about a month before you even go to do the medicine, you have to start cutting out fats and sweets, sugars, meat. Like you certainly get to a point where you're not eating any salt in your food.
Gotcha.
And what it does is it makes you much more sensitized to the medicine. And not all places do that.
I see.
Not all places have trained people, shamans that are actually trained to do this work. You have a lot of people who are just doing this like, oh, I'm just going to do ayahuasca. This stuff is like, you're going into people's deepest pain. You're going into the scariest parts of them. You're going into dimensions that if you don't know your way around, not every being that you meet in these other dimensions are friendly. They're not. So you need someone who's very experienced to be able to take you through to these places, who knows the lay of the land, who knows how to get you around and to help you to where you need to go. And I experienced this myself when I had the ayahuasca healing session I was in. So what the shaman is doing, like, we think that it's like the potency of the drug that's actually creating the hallucinations, which, I'm sure on a scientific level, material level, that's a degree true. But what's happening is that the shaman and his assistants are controlling where you are in the visions through the music that they're singing. So there would be moments where he would change the music and we would just be in another vision just from when he changed his music. Because he could see that we were done at that one place. It's time to go somewhere else. It's time to go over here.
That's
we need
wild.
to do work over here as a group. So there's a degree of understanding and of control.
Yeah.
And, there are, if you actually read into the literature for people who do really heavy study into ayahuasca, there are shamans who are not, pure, doing this for pure intentions. They're, you can send metaphysical darts. You can send energetic, basically black magic. You can do black magic during the session if you're not working with someone who's pure of heart.
What does black magic mean?
So your base black magic is like you're trying to control someone. You're trying to want someone to fall in love with you. You want it. That's
something nefarious
things, which not only in ayahuasca could be done in crystal healing, it could be done with anybody who's doing healing work.
Right.
So it's really finding out the people who do this work, who are doing this for the right reason, who have the training, who know how to control know what to do when things get crazy, because things are going to get crazy. When you do plant medicine like this, you're going to be thrust into places that are very frightening, like where your deepest fears are going to be. I mean, that's why you do the medicine, is because you're like, get this thing. Like, I need to deal with this thing.
Right.
You're going to go into these places and they're going to be very, very unpleasant. They're going to be very, very scary. At least
is another
for that moment.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go on. Yeah. And so you just need someone who be able to help you, because you're going into an emotionally loaded place.
Right.
For you. But I can tell you, having done this work, I've actually done iboga, which is ibogaine, because I was called to do that medicine as well. In doing these medicines and doing crystal healing, that's where the magic, you just have to step through that. You step through that door of pain and you make it out of the other side, and it's really beautiful on the other side. I know that.
Right. I wonder, like, for you and people who are, maybe interested in ceremonies like that and healing in that way and crystal healing and all of it, right? How much is there a piece of it that we need to be mindful of, cultural appropriation and, being mindful of that piece of it and the history of it and honoring, ancestors and things like that? Like, how keyed into that are you?
Well, it's incredibly important to me. Not so much on a social level, but mostly on a, let's see how's the best way to put it. I am really interested if somebody comes from a lineage that they taught, like, who taught this person. And for certain, like, for instance, for someone who does ayahuasca shaman, they come from a lineage where there's so much wisdom about this information of how this medicine works. And training is incredibly harsh. And if you lived in the Amazon, you could do this training starting from 5 years old. And some of this training includes you go out into the jungle, you eat one medicine, like so you eat one plant for a week. You get some other supplemental food that's really super bland. And then you have to sit with whatever that medicine does to you. If it makes you barf, it makes you sick, like whatever it does, you eat that plant, you work with that plant medicine for a week, just so you know what it's like, just so you know how it helps people. So how are you going to get that? How are you going to get that experience and training if you don't happen to be in that lineage where you don't, that's a normal thing. That's part of your culture,
right?
For you to have that sort of training. It's incredibly hard training. Not everybody makes it to a shaman, being a shaman, because like people don't like not eating yummy food.
Sure.
It's really, really painful to do.
Yeah.
So that's like, that eliminates someone who's just there for, the prestige of saying that they are ayahuasca shaman.
Right.
Which I see a lot of. I'm really, really unnerved. It's one of the things I get really concerned about, because I hear so many people with bad ayahuasca experiences. And when I find out the situation, who they're working with, they're not working with people who are trained. They're not working with people who are pure of heart. They're not working with people who understand how sacred and how much experience you need to have to be able to hold space for people like this.
Right.
When they're in this situation. But yeah, I definitely can give my thumbs up and recommendation for Temple of the Way of Light. They are doing things well. And, you look at them, I believe the guy who started it, he was a big business guy, and he, realized life wasn't fulfilling as a businessman, and then ended up in Peru, did the medicine, and then decided that he would help this community. So basically they support a whole community, and all the shamans who run the ceremony come from a particular tribe. And they particularly pick female shamans because they feel like that's where the healing is most needed. So they're basically supporting, like they have a whole permaculture garden. Like they're really doing things, conscientiously.
Yeah.
When you talk about like for someone who's doing, I don't know. I have a very high standard. I have high standards as far as healers. That's why I recommend so very few of them, because even say if you come from a lineage or, of a certain practice, it doesn't mean that you're actually doing this work in integrity. You're not actually, there's, especially on Instagram, there's a lot of people who are phony on multiple levels. They do it because it makes them look cool. It makes them, whatever they feel for the looks, like everything, like,
Sure.
For me, one of the ways you can tell that someone might be is a tip off that they might be phony. That is everything. All their photos look beautiful. Everything's about beauty.
Sure.
Everything's beautiful. Everything, what you're doing when you do crystal healing work or all these energy works, ayahuasca, is you're doing shadow work. So you're going into the deepest, darkest places, the scariest places, and you're bringing them to the light. It's not all pretty. It's, in fact, my husband always joked that I make people cry. Like my job is to help people cry, make them cry, and ugly cry. So they're always like, there's always crying involved, lots of crying.
It's the shedding of layers, right? It's the letting go. It's, seeing things that we aren't seeing. That's hard. That's hard to come to terms with.
Yeah. It's even for like where my husband sees it is when he has helped me out when I do crystal readings, like when I've had shows or something where I'll read somebody's energy and I'll tell them what crystal I recommend for them and why. When I'll do some of these readings, it really touches a nerve and they will start to tear up because like, this crystal, I see this crystal is resonating with them, and I'm getting information of what these pieces are that need so much healing. And, sometimes it's stuff that's conscious, sometimes that, they've been trying to bury, but when I touch this point, they'll start to cry. And so Mark's, my husband's really dry. So he's like, oh, you just make people cry. So in the crystal healing sessions, there's a lot of like tissues that can be involved. Not always, but tissues can be, but it's very cathartic. Like we're trying to get a place of catharsis where this deep pain that's been sitting with you, that's been in this lump inside of you, that's made you hurt for so long. I'm going to help you find it. And with lots of love, I'm going to help you see if we can help you heal it. Because I'm not actually doing the healing. You are doing the healing. I'm just the sort of the midwife facilitator. I'm helping you, but I'm not doing the work. You are actually doing the work. So let me see if I can help you find this thing. And then when you feel it, when you want to let it go, and usually the crystals put you in this place where you're really like, I don't like, that doesn't feel right to me. And it's time to like, eat this thing, like it needs to go. But that process will often make you, you'll cry because there's so much pain in that moment. Like you didn't know how much that was hurting you.
Right.
You didn't know how much that moment affected you. So yeah, for most of my clients, in a crystal healing session, at least the kind that I do, I often describe the crystal healing sessions that I do to be like, if your life was like a football game and you came in for a crystal healing session and you know where your goal line, like this is where I want to get to. And in the crystal healing session, it's like freezing all the players. So you're freezing the scene. You see yourself, you see all the dynamics that are happening around you, and you sort of closely observe it. And then when you come out of the crystal healing session, you know what you need to do to get over to that goal line.
Right.
But it might take about a year to implement all those experiences to get you to that point. You may have the realization, but it's still work to get those pieces in. Like my first time that I had a crystal healing session, the healer who was giving it to me, she asked me in my visions, "Where are you?" And I said, I am in the pool. Floating in the pool in front of your apartment building. And she said, "What are you doing there?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And so she just left me there. And I'm just like, what am I doing in this pool? And in my vision, I'm like, when you open your eyes and you look inside a pool and it's like that blue green and you're just looking at the bottom of the pool. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, why am I looking at this bottom of the pool? And then this feeling, this visceral, emotional feeling came over me. I'm like, oh my God. And she said, what? And I said, I have always been a water person. When I was a little kid, you could never get me out of the water. Like my parents would literally leave me with the lifeguard at the hotel pool because I would just swim like a mermaid all day and pretend I was a mermaid or a dolphin or whatever. And I was on the swim team. Like I used to swim all the time. I live in California. And then as I became older and quote, more responsible, there was less and less time for me to be in the water. And I didn't know until that moment how much I psychically need water. I don't dream of flying. I dream of breathing underwater. I am a water person. Water nourishes me on not just on a physical level, but on a very deeply energetic level. And in that moment, I realized what I needed to do. I realized I need to take a beach vacation every year. I need to be close to the water. I need to start swimming regularly. I need to get back in the water. And if I don't do that, I at least need to take a bath. I didn't know that baths were just more than a physical thing for me. They were actually a psychic. I need baths psychically on a psychic level. They do something. It does something for me to be submersed in water. So from that point on, it took me 6 years before I could figure out how to get swimming regularly into my life.
Right.
It took all this time, but I had that understanding then. Like, oh, I know what it is. And yes, when I started to swim regularly, it did wonders for me. Like there was something magical. That was a magical moment for me. But there's no, I don't know in any other circumstance that I would have figured that out.
Right.
But it's made a huge difference in my life. And now when I do, and I have my baths, especially in this time of quarantine when the pools are closed, I remember that this moment in the bath is not just for me to hang out and, soothe my joints or whatever. It is for me psychically to be in water again. How important that is to me and how much more sacred that moment becomes because I recognize it's for my healing journey.
Right. I love that.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
So, not everybody's a water person. You might be a desert person, or there might be other things that you need psychically to be supportive of you. And it's in these moments when you are doing metaphysical healing work, like ayahuasca, like doing crystal healing, like flower essences, that you start to see these pieces. Because in our very cognitive, intellectual world, very scientific based world. You're looking, science wants things that can be measured, that you can see, the cause and effect. And there's, science is really great for things that you can measure, but a lot of what is going on with us, a lot of the pain that we're experiencing cannot be measured. And it doesn't have a direct correlation between one thing or another. It's much more varied and nebulous, and not nebulous, but varied. And the connections are much more varied and different.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't know where they could be coming from.
Yeah.
So that's why I like metaphysics, because like I said in the crystal healing session, we never know where we're going, what dimension we'll be in, if we're going to be in your childhood or even beyond that into your past lives, finding pieces in there. We never know where we're going to go, but I know that we don't have to. I'm comfortable being in a nonlinear place. I'm comfortable taking people into nonlinear places and helping them to find whatever piece that they need to get to that part of healing.
Yeah.
So yeah, the past life stuff is pretty fun too.
Well, I mean, I could listen to you for hours talk about this stuff. It's endlessly fascinating. But I do need to start wrapping it up because but I do have one question from Heidi, our mutual pal Heidi.
Sure.
She asks, and it's kind of gets into a little bit of what we were talking about at the top. She asks, quote, "I'd love to hear how she's personally taking care of herself in the conversations around the intersection of politics and healing, how she's supporting herself to show up for those conversations."
Oh, that's a great question. So I've actually been pondering on a oh, hold on one second. Cat. I didn't know I had a mystery cat in my room. Sorry, can we pause for a second?
Yeah. No worries.
Mystery kitten, he showed up all of a sudden. Kitten, you have to go out here. Go spend time with the daddy. I was sleeping in my office. Here, can you hear me?
Yep.
I forget. I'm not sure which one if the mute button's on or off. Pardon me.
No worries.
I didn't know I had a kitten sleeping in my room.
What a lovely surprise that is.
Yeah. So on the topic of the intersection between politics and spirituality. So I'm trying to frame what's the best way to start. So politics and spirituality are directly interrelated in the sense that, like we talked earlier, what is going on inside of you propagates out through everything that you do, including your behavior that affects the world politically. If you are someone who is connected to their feelings, connected to their own pain, then you are able to recognize that pain in other people and feel empathy for them. So the work that we do as healers is inherently political, although it doesn't look like that from the outside, because all our work is to get people to a place where we are understanding each other, where we're understanding ourselves, understanding our own pain, healing our own pain so that we don't inflict it on other people. So when we look at what we consider intolerant people, they are projecting their pain, they're projecting their fears, they are scapegoating other people, scapegoating groups. They are thinking just for themselves. They're not thinking for the community. And when you do this healing work, when you are cognizant of the work you need to do for yourself, you are healing those pieces that may be propagating through that might end up propagating as a lack of empathy, a lack of understanding, a lack of being able to listen. And to make that less abstract, each one of your chakras governs a certain area of energy. So I'm actually going to write a deeper blog post about it. I'm still mulling about it, but I'm thinking about when we look at a politician, when we look at someone like a narcissist like Donald Trump, what is going on in his chakras that is off? So we can start again with the crown chakra, which has to do with your connection to the spiritual world. It's a place of higher ideals, of connection to the oneness of the world, the oneness of the universe, from a political standpoint. Donald Trump's not connected in that way. He's not thinking on a higher level at all. When we talk about third eye is your inner vision, what you're seeing. So on a more material level, on a more political level, it's like, what is it that you're projecting in your image? What he's projecting something in an image that is incongruent to what he really is. And what he's looking for in the world is incongruent to what is happening in reality. And so that's him, but it's also when we are looking at the world, and are we seeing it for what it is? Or are we projecting our fantasy? Are we looking to people to give us an image, a glamorous image? Are we into people because they give us a glamour image? Or is it because this image actually aligns with what they're doing? So this is, I feel like, a big piece in our world in general, our fascination with glamour, our fascination with image. There's a energetic problem happening right now that is that is showing up as like why Trump has so many fans as he does, because people are really into his image as a bully or whatever, like anti-bully or whatever people call him. So there's that point. Then we have what's the throat chakra. The throat chakra governs, communication, what you see and hear. What you are saying and hearing. So when your throat chakra is balanced, you are working in integrity. What you say matches what you do. What you hear the truth. You hear what people are saying. You don't filter what it is to convert it into what you want. But here we have this person who just says stuff all the time, doesn't mean anything he says, not even thinking about what he's saying. He also can't hear other people. He can't hear what they're trying to tell him, trying to communicate to him. There's a major problem with what he says he's going to do and what he actually does, what he's projecting for himself and what he actually is. But this is a huge, huge problem just with everyone's energy as I see it. Because if we want to hold a leader to the standard that he should say what he's going to do, in the same way, we have to hold up ourselves to the standard that we need to do the same things that we say we're going to do. So if we say, we're going to show up, I'm going to see you at 7:00, and then you don't show up at 7:00, you essentially flake, you are not being congruent with your energy. Your energy of what you say and what you do are incongruent. And in that way, you are also contributing to this energy that's propagating in the world where it makes it okay or it condones this behavior. So that's like, so we talk, and then we go into the heart chakra. So the heart chakra links the upper chakras, which is the spiritual chakras. It's like the center point, to the lower chakras, below the heart. The heart chakra is the most powerful and important chakra. It's the one that holds the context of love. You cannot feel empathy. You cannot feel care and concern and love if you are not connected to your heart chakra. Which obviously Donald Trump is not connected to his heart chakra at all. Then you have your solar plexus. That's your emotions. That's how are you being connected to your emotions? Are you recognizing them? Are you trying to stuff them away? Are you letting them express them? Are you processing them? You have an example of someone who doesn't know their own feelings. From what I understand, Donald Trump grew up in he grew up with narcissistic parents himself. He was probably, very emotionally abused and didn't know it. And he has daddy syndrome and all these other things that he's experiencing. And somehow he couldn't connect with that pain that he has within himself, that his daddy didn't love him the way that he wanted to. His parents didn't see him. So he's converted into him dominating other people, him becoming a bully for other people, him using that pain as a way to inflict violence on other people. That's him not being connected to his emotions. And so you see this again, like we talked about earlier with his followers who, these guys who think that being a guy means to stuff your feelings, to ignore your feelings, just stuff them down, not be connected to them,
right?
Ignore them.
Right.
So that's an imbalance. So we have to look in ourselves. Are we doing any of that ourselves? Are we holding energy that says that we can't honor our own feelings? Because we contribute. When we do that, we contribute to this energy where we support other people not getting in touch with their feelings.
Yeah.
Then below that, you have the navel chakra. The navel chakra deals with manifestation. And in people like Trump, the navel chakra is way overactive. It's way overblown. And so then in terms of him, it's like, I must get what I want at all cost. I don't care about what happens to you. I don't care what happens to this earth. I don't care. My goals matter no matter what. I will, steamroll everything along the way to get what I want. So again, when we reflect that back on ourselves, are we pushing against something in order to get our goals met? In order to get stuff done? Are we first, maybe ignoring our bodies? Are we not listening to other people? Like, are we just ignoring everything else because our goals are so much more important than everything else? So we have to ask ourselves that, is it more important to make money than to consider everyone? Is it more important? What is it that we're trying to manifest, and how are we going about it manifesting that? Are we creating businesses? Are we buying from businesses that support caring for other people, or who are just there for the bottom line? So that's that's the navel chakra. Then you go into, where are we? And then we go into the root chakra, and that's your connection to Mother Earth. Are you connected to Mother Earth? Are you caring about her? Are you considering that this planet is not just for us to take from? We are her colleagues. We're supposed to be considering her, and we don't take anything without giving something back. And are we doing that? And if you look at, a lot of these corporations who are not, that are mostly unconscious, they just take and take and take. They think Mother Earth's something to rape and pillage from. They don't think about anything that you're supposed to give back to her. What about the people who live on her? What about the other beings, all the creatures, all the plants, all the animals, everything? The human beings. This is what we're supposed to, this is who we are living with. This is our home. And that, if you're not paying attention to that, if you think that she's something to conquer, you are out of balance. You're not connected. So again, this is what's happening. There are people who are praising. We are praising people. We are lauding people who are energetically out of balance throughout their chakras for different reasons to different degrees. So we have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves on an energetic level, are we supporting any of these ideas in our own life, in our own ways? And if you don't like what you're seeing out there politically, if you don't like what you've seen, then you have to change it within yourself, because you pull away every time you don't give that energy. If you don't support that energy of misalignment then what you do is you take a brick away from that energetic support that supports all this nasty politics, all this nasty social stuff to happen.
Mm. Yeah.
It's just the way you're moving through. It's how you are energetically moving within yourself is how you energetically move through the world. So another story, my husband always jokes that I'm always confronting people. I'm always confronting people on stuff because, for instance, I was on a plane and there were a bunch of friends sitting together on the aisle next to me. And there was one seat that was being sat in by somebody who bought their ticket, and they had a friend in the back that they wanted to sit with them. And so they very manipulatively asked that girl, they're like, oh, our friend's sitting in the back. Do you mind if if we trade sweets? And all the while I knew we were sitting in the economy plus seat. This girl had paid extra money to be in the seat, but I was like, yeah, sure, go sit with your friends. And so she switched seats. And then I said to him, did you tell her that she paid more money for that seat? Did you explain that to her when you asked her for this trade? And I'm like, did you say that to her? Because everybody else, there were a bunch of people sitting around, and I could tell they were all listening and they all knew it, but they didn't say anything. Whatever they, I don't, it's no judgment. If you grew up in an abusive situation where you got in trouble and you got hurt because you try to speak out the truth, then I totally understand why you wouldn't want to speak up. But for me, that was not okay. I did not want to sit next to that and be okay. That wasn't okay for me.
Right.
So I said, you need to tell her that she paid more for that seat. So one of the guys went up and he talked to the girl, they ended up switching seats again. So this girl was sitting in between the group of friends. And I think we had like this 6-hour flight. And then we ended up back home. And then as they were leaving, she's like, thanks for ruining my flight.
Oh, wow.
And I was laughing so hard because I was like, oh my God, you let that like eat you up for the last 6 hours. That is more than, that is your punishment that you've inflicted on yourself. But it's not okay. It's just not okay. And I can't just witness that and be okay with that. And so in the same way, if you are energetically, what are you tolerating within yourself? What makes it okay for you to be taken advantage of? Because if you let yourself be taken advantage of, you're going to let other people be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And then it's just going to propagate down this line. So, yeah, I was concerned that in this podcast, I wouldn't be able to explain myself because it can be very circular about how I explain things. But in a sense, everything that you do internally, even to the degree of what you think inside your mind, has an effect out into the world, all the way through into politics.
Yeah. No, I think you explain yourself very well. And I enjoy listening to every bit of it. And I think the listeners will especially enjoy you going through Trump's chakras. So what a gift that is to humanity.
I mean, he's just an example. That example of his chakras is an example of imbalance that is being held by his supporters as well.
Right.
So it's, from larger to lesser degree, but he wouldn't have got to that place. He wouldn't have got to the place of presidency if there was a bunch of people supporting him, like all the way down the line from, the casual voter to the ardent supporter.
Yep.
All that energy is supporting him. So if you don't like that, if you don't ever want to see somebody like him again, you have to look in yourself and start picking apart the pieces that are within you. Like, where have you been? I think the two biggest ones, to focus on is, one, do you say what you mean and mean what you say? Are you being truthful? Like, are you really considering when you make a commitment to something that you're going to follow through on it, even if it's just casual? If you say you're going to do something for somebody, like if you say you're going to drop off a book, are you really going to drop off the book, or is that just a thing that you're saying? It's a big energetic piece that people are struggling with in general right now. So the other piece is, are you caring about somebody's looks, what they're presenting, more than how that presentation is congruent with who they actually are? So in our world, what I've been seeing energetically is that these two pieces are coming up to be looked at. We may think that it's okay, like, oh, that person's so glamorous, I can just like them for what their PR, the PR comes out about them. But are we really looking at them as a human being and not putting them on a pedestal?
Right.
You say like, oh yeah, I really like their acting work, but they're, and they're easy to look at. But I'm not making them into somebody more special than my neighbor next door.
Yeah.
So there's this thing, and it's definitely not being helped by Instagram, of putting people on this pedestal because of what they present. And that is a really big thing that I think we are starting to face, because it's not only with people, it's companies. Companies, they say, oh, we're this really great company. Look at all these wonderful things they do. Look at all the cool people that we have in our photographs. Meanwhile, they are creating products that are hurting people through the manufacturing process. And those are our consumer purchases that we're making every single day. Are we buying products that are hurting other people? And, and I'm not to say that this is something that you can just turn around, something you could just like fix, like and flip a switch and you do it. It's, are we taking the time to actually learn about the products that we're buying? Are we actually, choosing who choosing to support? And it's going to be a process. And thankfully, our money, companies follow the money. So if we don't buy stuff from them, you're going to slowly get them to create products that do get your money. It's like, I think about how Walmart started selling organic milk, not out of the goodness of their hearts, but because the customers started asking for it. So we have a lot of power in that sort of way.
Right. Well, Azalea, we do have to wrap up. Where can the listeners learn more about the work you do and connect with you?
So you can always find me at place8healing.com. That's PLACE, the number 8 healing.com. I also, as much as I do avoid Instagram to a degree, I do have an Instagram account under Place8 Healing. And if you're interested in my book, you can find it wherever books are sold, or you can go to the Place8 Healing website. And I do have a list of where you can buy the book in the US and internationally, as well as a bookshop, which is a affiliate book program, and you can buy the book through me. And I also list a bunch of other metaphysical books to help you if you are interested in learning about metaphysics in a truly deep level.
Wonderful. Well, listeners, all those links will be in the show notes for this episode. Azalea, thank you for being a part of this show. I mean, I feel like I just saturated with knowledge, and I feel so grateful.
I feel grateful as well. Thank you so much for having me on. And I really want to thank every single member of this audience who is doing the work to get closer and deeper to the truest part of themselves.
Well, thank you for that. And listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring, pale blue dot. We have each other. It's you, me, empathy.
Oh